quiet, unsettling truth settles over us long before we ever admit it out loud. Silence on social media isn't emptiness. It's not absence. It's not failure. And it's certainly not indifference. Silence, in its strange and strangely powerful way, becomes a kind of emotional strategy, a whisper louder than any post, any comment, any carefully crafted sentence. It's a decision that feels peaceful on the surface, but has roots that run far deeper and far darker than we care to acknowledge. Most of us think silence online is simply a choice not to participate, a brief pause in the noise. But if you listen closely, underneath that pause, there's usually something trembling, a fear, a wound, a memory, an instinct shaped by years of watching how the online world devours vulnerability and rewards performance. And so the truth sits there, quiet but insistent. Sometimes the loudest parts of us only show up when we say nothing at all. Across a dimly lit bedroom, a phone screen glows, the kind of glow that makes you feel both connected and profoundly alone at the same time. The room is still, except for the soft hum of a fan and the faint buzz of a notification that goes unanswered. On the bed sits a young woman. Let's call her Mara, legs crossed, thumb hovering above the screen, as if trying to decipher whether touching it will ignite something she isn't ready for. The draft of her latest post is open, the cursor blinking like a tiny heartbeat, waiting for her to decide whether her thoughts deserve to be seen by the digital world. She's written and deleted versions of this post 10 times already. The words are simple, nothing dramatic, nothing groundbreaking, just a small reflection about how she's been feeling lately. It's strange how tired I feel, even when I'm not doing much. It's the kind of sentence that could be read and forgotten in seconds. But to her, it feels heavy, too heavy. Her thumb moves toward the post button and stops. The room feels thick. Each breath becomes a negotiation. She tries again, and again the same paralysis freezes her in place. Why is this so hard? She wonders if anyone will think she's being dramatic. She wonders if anyone will judge her. She wonders if she is revealing too much, too little, or the wrong kind of vulnerable. She wonders if anyone will even read it. She wonders why she suddenly feels childish for wanting to express something so painfully ordinary. And then, with a soft exhale, she presses the back arrow, watches the entire draft vanish, and locks her phone. Silence wins again, but this time, something is different, because as the screen goes dark, she notices a flicker inside herself. Not relief, not disappointment, something else, something like a realization she can't quite name yet, but one she feels echoing quietly through her chest. The moment happens so subtly that she almost misses it. But it's there, a shift, a tilt in her internal landscape. For the first time, she notices that the silence isn't accidental. It isn't laziness. It isn't forgetfulness. And it certainly isn't neutrality. It's a habit, a reflex, a way of protecting herself from something she hasn't even fully admitted she fears. And in that split second, she realizes something even more startling. Her silence doesn't come from not knowing what to say. It comes from knowing exactly what she feels and being terrified of seeing it reflected back to her through the reactions of other people. The moment hits her like a soft but undeniable wave. Posting, she realizes, isn't just about expression. It's about exposure. It's about being held up to a mirror crafted by strangers. It's about surrendering your internal world to an external audience whose interpretations you cannot control. Silence, in comparison, feels safe. It feels predictable. It gives her the illusion of emotional privacy in a world where everything has become content. And the realization wraps tightly around her, not in punishment, but in clarity. Staying silent wasn't the absence of courage. It was the presence of fear, a subtle, shapeless fear that had been quietly guiding her thumb away from the post button long before she ever questioned why. And once she sees that truth, she can't unsee it. The more you look around, the clearer it becomes that Mara isn't alone, not even close. What we call a quiet online presence has spread through our generation like a silent tide. A phenomenon hiding in plain sight, too subtle to announce itself, but too consistent to be random. Millions of people hover over their screens, editing drafts that never see daylight, typing thoughts that vanish the second self-awareness kicks in. Millions more scroll endlessly, absorbing post after post, while leaving no digital trace of their presence, no likes, no comments, no acknowledgement that they were ever there. It's not apathy, it's not shyness, it's not having anything to say. It's a pattern, one so widespread that it almost feels like a collective defense mechanism. We are part of the most connected generation in human history, yet more and more of us are choosing silence. Not vocal silence, digital silence, the kind that's invisible, hidden, unmeasured, the kind that doesn't trigger notifications, algorithms, or engagement metrics. And it's not because we have nothing to offer. It's because offering something has never felt so emotionally risky. We grew up watching people curated, criticized, canceled, dissected, mocked, and meanified. We saw how a single sentence could be taken out of context. We watched strangers tear each other apart over interpretations. We saw how vulnerability could be screenshot, shared, and laughed at. We learned, slowly and silently, that saying nothing was often the safest option. And so, a quiet epidemic formed. A world where millions of people are constantly watching but rarely speaking, constantly thinking but rarely sharing, constantly feeling but rarely revealing. A society of eyes with no voices, emotions with no outlets, hearts with no safe audience. We don't talk about this pattern because silence doesn't announce itself, but it's everywhere. The person who writes long paragraphs and notes but never posts. The friend who deletes their social app every few weeks. The person who scrolls for hours but never interacts. The one who used to post freely and now disappears. The one who types out a comment and erases it before sending. It's more common than you think. Far more common. And once you see it, you start to recognize the truth beneath it. Our relationship to social media is not just technological. It's deeply, profoundly psychological. We are not avoiding the platforms. We are avoiding being seen. Here's the part that hurts. Silence on social media is often the clearest sign that someone feels emotionally unsafe. Not unsafe in the physical sense, but unsafe in the psychological sense. The sense that expressing themselves might lead to misinterpretation, judgment, invisibility, or invalidation. Social media turned communication into performance. It turned vulnerability into spectacle. It turned opinions into potential ammunition. It turned self-expression into something that could be scored, measured, compared, and criticized publicly. So silence became the shelter. The dark truth is that staying silent online is rarely about having nothing to say. It's about believing your voice won't survive the exposure. It's about believing your emotions won't be handled with care. It's about believing your presence doesn't add value, or worse, they could invite scrutiny. Silence becomes a way of staying safe in a world that makes authentic expression feel dangerous. For some, it comes from perfectionism, the pressure to articulate thoughts so flawlessly that anything less feels like a risk. For others, it comes from past wounds, moments when something they shared was mocked, ignored, or dismissed. For many, it comes from chronic self-consciousness, the belief that every post is a test they're destined to fail. And then there's the heaviest truth of all. Sometimes silence is the result of emotional exhaustion. We are overwhelmed emotionally, mentally, socially, by the endless stream of opinions, conflicts, aesthetics, politics, performances, and expectations. We are tired of being expected to react, respond, participate, and perform. Silence becomes the only form of rest we know, but that same silence can also become isolation. It can turn into a quiet loneliness that grows not from lack of communication, but from the absence of expression. It can make you feel invisible, even when people know your name. It can convince you that your thoughts are only safe inside your mind, not in the hands of others. This is the psychological paradox of staying silent on social media. Silence protects us, but it also starves us. It shields us, but it also isolates us. It comforts us, but it also suppresses us. And the saddest part? Most people don't even know why they're silent. They think they're simply not into posting, when in reality, they've learned, subconsciously, quietly, painfully, that the world doesn't feel safe enough to hold their inner voice. And so, they hold it alone. In the end, silence becomes more than a choice. It becomes a kind of philosophical state, a place where you exist between being seen and being hidden, between wanting connection and fearing exposure, between craving understanding and guarding yourself from disappointment. Silence becomes the bridge between your inner life and the world you no longer fully trust with it. And maybe that's why it lingers. Not as a solution, but as a temporary refuge, a quiet room inside the noise, a soft corner of the internet where you keep your thoughts safe from translation, misinterpretation, and expectation. But like all refuges, silence raises a question that never fully answers itself. How long can you stay hidden before hiding starts to feel like disappearing? There is no tidy conclusion here. No moral, no encouragement to just be yourself in a world that often punishes authenticity. Instead, there is only the soft truth that your silence is not meaningless. It is not emptiness. It is not apathy. It is a story, complicated, emotional, and deeply human, whispered in the spaces where your words never make it to the screen. And maybe, just maybe, understanding the psychology behind that silence is the first step in deciding whether it still protects you or whether it's slowly breaking you in ways you haven't yet realized. The digital world may never feel fully safe, and maybe it was a mistake to expect it to, but your voice, fragile, imperfect, searching, still belongs somewhere. And until you find that place, your silence will keep speaking for you, quietly, softly, honestly, not to the world, but to yourself.